This is a quick introduction to building a project on ATL maps, and it's in the context of the early forming of the Stadiumville project when we were playing with these maps and thinking about how really you can discover interesting connections to different things when you are placing various different stories or data on a map. So I'm already signed in. No one, just an average user, can't do this at this point, but they will eventually be able to do this. And anyone can view some of the projects that are already up, but to build one, that will be a little bit in the future. So I'm gonna click on Build an ATL map. The first thing that I would do, first I get just a blank map, and I'm gonna call this Stadiumville. And I had already named it before, so art and city planning. Let's call it that. Okay, and I could put a description here. I could add keywords. But what I'm particularly interested in doing is adding some layers to this. So first, I'm interested in the living walls murals, and just taking 2013. We have data from 2010. This is a yearly event where artists from around the world, and you can see over on this side, create these giant murals around the city. And so you can click on any of these and see these. And I am particularly interested in this area here, where the Stadiumville area that we're discussing. And it's bordered by 20, 75, 85, and then it has these huge parking lots where the former Atlanta Fulton County Stadium is, and where the current stadium is, the Turner Field. And you have this cluster of murals, and this is just the 2013 murals. And you don't have clusters like this in any other part of the city. And it's because, as some of the people from the project came out and talked about on a tour that I was on, was that you've got these buildings that nothing's in them. There are almost no businesses in this area. Not many people living right around here because of all the infrastructure. And so the city didn't care all that much that they put murals on every single wall, and the business owners didn't. And so this wall is a good example of that, where it's just on every side of these buildings you have these huge murals. And so even though the art's not speaking directly to the history of this area, when we start looking at some archival maps, we'll see some connection. So I'm going to add a few more layers, and it took a while to sort through these when I was doing this originally, but we can do it pretty quickly here. So one of the things that I want to look at is the land use maps from 1952. And there's that one. And that can show us a little bit about what was here before. Then I'm going to take a look at what are called some Negro residential maps. And I'm just going to grab, let's just grab this top one. And then I want to take a look at some of the code compliance maps that tell us a little bit about the history of urban renewal and some of the plans that were being made for the stadiums, that sort of thing. So I've got these three maps on there now. And if we zoom into our study area, and we know it's our study area, one, because of this cluster, but also if we open up all the layers, I can turn off all of these maps and get the image again. We've got the artwork, and we've got the stadiums and the highways. So let's take a look at the 1952 map first. I'm going to have to back out a little bit to see it. The green is single family, or I think double family occupancy. The red is where businesses are. The orange is where apartments are. So we've got this, what we would call mixed-use development. And if we scroll back and forth, we can see, how this area was just totally leveled. That was, a community here. Pretty clearly, people living, working, and living their lives here. If we turn that off, we can then take a look at some of the maps that Atlanta it has a large series of these of race maps. And so what this map is looking at is areas where African Americans were living and areas where African Americans were moving into. And so we see this area, I'm pretty sure this is where African Americans were living, this is where African Americans were moving into, the color coding here. And we see, Atlanta constantly doing this, measuring where blacks were living. And that becomes particularly disturbing when we put in the housing and code compliance maps. And so here, this is where the stadium was already going up. So this area means that huge projects that were already taking place. The diagonal is protected area. So near Grant Park, you have this protected area. And then the more tic-tac-toe hatching is where they had plans for urban renewal. And so if we compare that to the race maps, we'll see pretty clearly the areas that they've got big plans for are areas where they know African Americans live. And so that's just a quick demonstration of some of the things that we can do on this platform, and showing how something like this current art project can tell us something about this history. It can key us in and let us know that there's a story to be told here.